gets it moved where I want it. And
may I have your attention? If you have not signed in, please do so at this time and take this opportunity to silence all cell phones. Thank you.
Good morning. This meeting of the Louisiana Tax Commission is hereby called to order. This meeting is being held at the offices of the Louisiana Tax Commission at 1051 North 3rd Street, Suite 225, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The date is Wednesday, April 11th, 2018, and the time is 10:02 a.m. Please call the roll.
Chairman Shahardy.
Here.
Commissioner Wagasback.
Here.
Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner Verscher.
Here.
Commissioner Wood.
here.
5 present and a quorum.
Thank you. There being no old business to take up at this time, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes of the March 28th, 2018 meeting.
So moved.
Commissioner Verscher.
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback.
Yes.
Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Commissioner West.
Yes.
Chairman Shahardy.
Not voting. I was absent.
Absent on that meeting.
I'll now accept a motion to approve the minutes of the April 4th, 2018 meeting.
So moved.
Commissioner Verscher.
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback.
Yes.
Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Commissioner West.
Yes.
Chairman Shahardy.
Yes. I'll now accept into the record the exhibits from our meeting held on April 4th, 2018. These include the appeal of Robert A. Kutcher versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22172-003. The appeal of Monty Chalet versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22172-032. The appeal of John P. Boudreau versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22172-047. The appeal of TBMWC Sabine and Sabine versus the Sabine Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22085-001. And the appeal of TBM LS Sabine versus the Sabine Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22085-002. The Tax Commission hereby accepts all pre-filed documents and oral testimony into the record as Taxpayer Exhibit 1 in Globo, Assessor Exhibit 1 in Globo, and Louisiana Tax Commission Staff Appraiser Exhibit 1 in Globo for each of the appeal hearings conducted on April the 4th, 2018.
So moved.
I think we just need to read it. Yeah, we're fine. Next items on the agenda are the appeal, consideration of decisions in the following appeals. The appeal of Seisler North Shore Limited versus the St. Tammany Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22103-001. I will make the motion for the mall assessment number 124-054-1435, land assessed at land valued at $7,033,860, improvements valued at $1,593,140 for a total value of $8,627,000. The Mervyn's assessment number 124-054-1516, land value at $994,000, improvements $679,000 for a total value of $1,673,000. Divided between the two tax bills and assessment numbers, the property is valued as follows. The mall assessment, $8,627,000. Mervyn's assessment, $1,673,000 for a total value $10,300,000. Accept a second on my motion.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Verscher.
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback.
Yes.
Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Commissioner West.
Yes.
Chairman Shahardy.
Yes. The next decision will be the appeal of Revenue Properties North versus St. Tammany Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22103-002. My motion is to fix the fair market value of the land at $994,000, improvements at $671,000, for a total fair market value of $1,673,000. I'll accept a second on that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Varsher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagensback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
Chairman Shahardi?
Yes. At this time, I will ask anybody who is intending to come to the table this morning to testify to please come forward to be sworn in.
If you haven't done this before, we swear all the witnesses in at once. I'm going to administer the oath. You'll approach any of the microphones, affirm the oath by stating I do, and then state your name for the record. Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Your name?
Michael Lachlan.
I do. Joy Cohen.
George Wallace, I do.
I do. Ted Bolden.
Russell Almaraz, I do.
Thomas Sandoz, I do.
Mr. Lachlan, say your name again and please say I do.
Michael Lachlan, I do.
Thank you. It is the Tax Commission's policy to accept all documents into the record that were timely pre-filed in accordance with the Commission's rules and regulations. This will be done at the conclusion of all hearings on today's docket. Accordingly, there is no need to formally offer or introduce the exhibits into the record during your appeal hearing. However, if you intend to object to the submission of any of the opposing parties' exhibits, you must notify the Commission at the start of your appeal hearing. As a reminder, this is an administrative hearing, and as such, the rules of evidence are relaxed. The Commission is inclined to review and consider all evidence submitted and to accept such evidence into the record. On the appeal docket this morning, the first two appeals, both involving Whirlwind Space AC LLC, items A and B have both been settled, so the Commission will not be hearing those items this morning. The next item on the agenda that we will be hearing, which one are you testifying on, Mr. Almaraz?
This would be Michael Grebe. Item B.
Item D?
Or, I'm sorry, it should be item C.
Item C, okay. All right, that's the assessor appeal, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda that we will be hearing this morning will be the appeal of Assessor Errol Williams versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22172-024. I would ask anybody, very well, make sure the taxpayer comes to the table. And all right, this is an assessor appeal, so let's go ahead and hear from the assessor's office.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Russell Almaraz for the Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. We initially revalued this property. This is a similar situation in the last week, and all the properties in Lake Vista that have frontage on the levee or lake frontage. We initially valued all these properties at $100 a square foot. Our original valuation with that came out to $1,091,300. It was subsequently brought to our attention that there was a square footage discrepancy. That we originally valued the property using 7163 square feet. We went out and remeasured the property. The property is 5247 square feet. That would lend us to recalculate the value at $899,700, and that would put us at the same equitable valuation of $100 per square foot for the improvement. We feel that the tax commission should uphold this, and that the Board of Review's valuation is low at the 76,000, or it was 765,000. There's been a number of sales that support that the improvement valuation in that area should be at no less than $100 a square foot.
And the board review, I think, was 787.
765, I believe.
Yes, sir, the board review was 765, and I
The
think,
taxpayer requested
More than that.
more than that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I'm a little confused.
okay.
787.9.
All right. Any other testimony?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. All right, let's hear from, Ms. Grieb.
Call me, but that's fine.
That's fine, okay.
I'll never change my name.
That's fine. I have a friend of mine who was married for 20-plus years. His wife, after 20-something years, finally changed her driver's license to his name.
Really?
Yeah. It's been all downhill after that. She should have kept her maiden name.
I took a
All right.
while to change mine too. I was making
Yes.
sure he stuck.
You wanted to make sure he's worthy of keeping around,
That's
you know?
been 31 years.
All right.
So y'all threw their number 787,900. That is actually, when we first went, y'all know the story. I'm not gonna rehash it. He just explained about the discrepancy of square footage, so I don't need to rehash that. But once the discrepancy was discovered, then Mr. Keith Levine assessed it to go from 1,091,300 to 787,900. That's where y'all got that number from. And then the assessor's office, or Mr. Williams, rejected that and raised it back up to, initially sent me a letter saying that we would raise it back up to the original thing, but then I emailed them and had some correspondence, and they lowered it back down to 898,700. So I appealed that, and that's why you see the 765.
So,
And I appealed that on the basis of the value of the property or the house not being $100 per square foot because of all the, and I have documents and everything to show this, water intrusion and termite damage that we have suffered. Not to mention that we have deferred maintenance and we have not renovated because I've been raising 6 children and that's been our priority, not redoing the outdated
Sure.
bathrooms and kitchens and fixing the kitchen cabinets, and they swing on the kitchen cabinets like Tarzan, and so there was no reason to renovate until they're grown out of the house. So based on that, I have a whole long spiel, but I can give it to you, but
Well,
that's the long story short.
we have, the assessor's office is requesting a value of $898,700. Is that correct?
899,700, yes, sir.
899,700. I have the September 1st, 2017 letter that says 898,700. I don't
Okay,
know.
then we'll go with the 898,700.
Okay, addressed to a Dr. Cohen.
That's it.
That's you, okay. All right, I mean, it's $1,000, it's not,
Yeah.
not a big deal. That's 898,700. You had requested a value of 787,900.
That's because that's what Mr. Levine had shown me.
Okay.
They thought. That was the
Alright.
original value, and then when we went to New Orleans Board of Review, after they rejected that and we went back, they lowered it even more. But
Yeah.
the other-
We don't have copies of the photos, at least I don't have copies of the photos.
Would you like them?
Well, it would help to see them.
Certainly. There's photos of both, of all the damage, and when they had to, I'm not really good with contracting stuff, but when they had to,
We don't need all of them, I mean, just
I
something
was,
that's
no, I
representative.
have like 8 copies, but I'll just give you one set. When they,
May I have a copy? Yeah.
absolutely. I've given y'all have them. That is why they lowered it like they did.
Okay.
But here you go. But,
Thank you.
when they had to redo everything and tear it down to the
Studs.
it wrecked the inside too. So a lot of the stuff on the inside was redone, but not redone well, like the gold trim and stuff like that, which you'll see here. I'm so sorry. I meant to get her early, Mr. Crawford was like, oh, okay.
Okay. And that's like 60 square feet from, okay.
And I also have, I don't know if you see a letter from State Farm.
I think I did see this.
They're all separated by
see
there's also the letter from State Farm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do y'all have that?
These photographs I'm looking at, is this the condition of your home at the present time?
No, it's not.
Well, this was when?
In 2015. But
Okay, so this has all been repaired since then?
it's basically been hopefully repaired, but we still are fighting. You'll see some of those pictures are from recently. We're still fighting ongoing water intrusion. So it's still,
But these pictures of what appears to be termite damage and possibly some water intrusion down to the studs, that's
yes.
in theory been repaired?
It's been repaired, but the structure, it's been repaired to as best we could do. We tried to get insurance help, and they didn't. So after about $188,000, I think y'all might have that, we couldn't do all that needed to be done. So we still have, you'll see on those pictures.
Are these
there's
your only,
mold on my carpets,
are these your
there's-
only copies?
Huh?
Are these your only copies?
He just gave you more, right?
I gave
It's
him
actually, said he wants to give them back to you.
No,
You know what I'm
no,
saying?
no, you can have them.
Okay.
Okay.
Enjoy them. It's wrecking my heart. But if you still see, there's still, after we fixed it, there's still water leakage. There's still mold on the, so it's structurally not, if I try to put this house on the market right now, I would have to disclose all that because by law, but in
Yeah.
good conscience. I wouldn't put this house on the market right now because of that. I would have to do a lot more repairs to
Okay.
what is, to what we're
Right.
still fighting. It's
All right.
not completely, how do you put it, reconciled, or it's not completely fixed. But
Right.
what we did there was to keep it from basically falling down. I mean, you see how it was rotting. So
Okay.
we were just trying to,
Is
Put it
this
back.
why the Board of Review adjusted it so much
Yes.
to the 765?
Yes.
Okay. They were presented the same
I
information?
presented the same,
Okay.
yes. Plus, we've had deferred maintenance and we have no renovations and it's still, you know, although the house was beautiful when we moved in, it's taken its shots from the 6 kids in the 30, no, not 30 years, how many years we were there? I was pregnant when I moved in and that child is now 23 or 22. So it's taken 22 years of 6 kids and a couple of pets.
Let's hear from Mr. Bolton, our staff appraiser.
I made an exterior inspection on this property and measured it. She sent me the floor plans, used that with my measurements to get the square footage. My appraisal was $830,000.
Were you were not able to do an interior inspection?
No, we couldn't get together. It was,
I work for the VA emergency room, my
I
husband works
understand.
for emergency rooms, and there seemed to be a time constraint here, so.
I mean, your square footage number is a little different than the assessor's
yes,
number.
sir, it is. Not a lot, but a little bit, yeah. I'd actually relied on her for the blueprints that she sent me, which were good blueprints.
I've got the big ones if y'all wanna see them.
No.
No.
No?
What was your
Paperwork we got.
Okay.
Paperwork I got. So I got mine from the blueprints and my measurements.
Okay.
What was your square footage number? 5189.
Versus 5247.
And the assessor has 5247.
Yes, sir.
And yours, you got from,
We did a physical measurement of the exterior of the building.
On which one, the long one or the right one?
Well, no, our 5200
Oh, I know,
is,
I thought you were talking about that 7,000.
I'm not sure where the 7163, I can't speak to that, but
Satellite,
I think we're less than 100 feet apart.
satellite, because we have a couple of covered areas that are outside. It's geometrically over the house.
yeah, we're 58 square feet difference.
Yeah, I was less than 100 square feet.
I think that's more rounding than anything else.
don't know, I didn't round much, but that's okay. Whatever the computer did, I think it's the interior spaces
Do we have any other testimony that we need to hear?
The only thing that I would like to add is just that the photos do show a lot of damage and deferred maintenance. I would just remind that the commission that the taxpayer did say that the majority of the damage has been mediated and is no longer the case with the house. There is some deferred maintenance and water intrusion, but the termite damage has been mediated. That's it.
Okay.
As I would,
Don't talk too much.
okay.
All right. We have a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion,
All righty.
if that's acceptable. In the matter of docket number 17-22172-024, appeal of Assessor Errol G. Williams versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, I would move that we uphold the Parish Board of Review's values: land $375,000, improvements $390,000, for a total of $765,000.
Second.
Commissioner Varsher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
Chairman Shahardy?
Yes. All right.
Thank
you all.
right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
And good luck with the 6 kids.
Thank you. Got 4 of them grown. They're not off the payroll.
I've got one. She thinks she's 6.
Thank you so much.
All right, the next matter on the dockets, the appeal of Rappel Properties LLC versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22176-017. All right, this is a taxpayer appeal. Mr. Lachlan, you can proceed.
Yes, I think this seems to be a disagreement between the State Tax Commission field appraiser and the New Orleans Property Tax Assessor's Office. We went through the process. We met with the field appraiser at the site. We explained all the information to him. This particular property is a dental office. When the current owner bought the building, he actually bought the practice and the equipment. And we're in total agreement with the State Tax Commission's field appraisal.
Now you say he bought, was that included in the purchase price?
Yes, it was.
So the act of sale included the
He
land, the
bought
building?
and Dr.
and the-
the old practice from the old dentist.
What was that purchase price? Is that?
$850,000?
Yes.
I mean, not that the purchase price is
Reflective of that.
necessarily reflective, but, you know, it can be indicative. I mean, you need other data to support the purchase price is what I'm saying, because we don't want to be sales chasing. Does it say anywhere in the transfer that it includes personal property?
No, but when Dr. Rappel bought it from Dr. Creeley, he bought her entire practice, everything, the building, the equipment, and the book of business that she had.
Hold on one moment. Dental chairs were bought?
Yes, sir.
What goes into a book of business, a dental office? Is it
The exist-
patient wet records?
The existing practice, all the existing patients, now they don't have to come,
Right.
but you try to get them to come because you're buying their existing business.
You know, it doesn't state that in the sale. Basically, the sale just covers the real property,
Correct.
meaning the real estate. So
Wouldn't happen to have a closing statement or something of that nature that would show that, huh?
No, sir, I don't.
So we only have 3 pages. Y'all have more than 3 pages in the after sale?
And so all the dental equipment, chairs, tools,
Every single thing. The building was built, constructed as a dental building, built as a dental practice. And when he purchased the business from Dr. Creel,
lights,
he
all
bought
of
every
that
single
you
thing in the
needed.
building.
Okay.
So you agree with the staff appraisal?
Yes, sir, I do.
635,000.
Yes, sir, I do.
Now, how did you come up with your requested value? I mean, your requested value is 608. I mean, how did?
How to do that?
Yeah.
Basically, the only thing we can do in the limited time that's available for us with the window that's allowed us in the city of New Orleans to file it is do comparative analysis. I went all the way down Magazine Street. I looked at every other business on Magazine Street. To give you an example, the building right next door to this is $110 a square foot building value. Perlis, which is a beautiful building on the corner, is $30 a square foot building value. So I went all the way down Magazine and I tried to compare buildings that were similar to this particular building and use that as, you know, it's very difficult for us to do land value because land value is pretty consistent when they appraise it. But on building value, there's such an amazing discrepancy in the building values that we try to pick the ones that we can compare this particular building to. And there was no building that I could find personally between Magazine Street and Jefferson Avenue that was anywhere near $236 a square foot building value.
I'm familiar with this building. Used to buy my running shoes next door.
Yeah, I'm doing that appeal too.
And drink beer at the Ottoman Tavern, but
Right,
that's close.
LAT2s. That's dating us a little bit.
Running shoes and drinking beer in the
He
same
was
sentence.
running into.
Good balance.
his
Good
draft.
balance.
Sounds like,
It's New Orleans.
sounds like.
Yeah, I know.
What am I thinking?
All right. Well, let's hear from the assessor's office.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thomas Sandoz, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. I assume that you all have copies of the exhibits that I submitted, and part of it is an analysis of the staff appraisal, and it's nothing certainly personal against Mr. Wallace. It was just when I was reviewing the appraisal, some things kind of popped up. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about that exhibit. I did include a copy of the act of sale, and as Commissioner Wagasback noted, there is no delineation between the sale price, including business, FF&E, goodwill, book of business. It was $850,000 for the real estate, and that's according to the act of sale. There's no other documentation that indicates anything otherwise, and therefore, and there was a lease in place at the time that the property was sold, and that is delineated within the act of sale. And so therefore, the Board of Review upheld our value of $850,000, and we would ask the Commission to uphold the Board of Review's decision. Based on that, the taxpayer representative did not submit any documentation to the Assessor's Office. I have no copies of anything, so anything that is introduced here today I would object to. So basically all we have is testimony. But
Yeah, we don't have much either. We've got the appeal document. so
correct.
It's really all testimony.
Right. So again, you know, I would point out that the act of sale does not delineate between real estate and personal property and so on and so forth. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point.
And I understand that. My concern is, I don't want to see a sales chasing, and the $850,000 by itself is sales chasing. I would be looking at some sort of valuation that might back up the $850,000, but we don't have that. What we've got is
But we have a sale.
Well, I know, but the sale.
And the sale occurred in April of 2015, which is on either side, 6 months on either side of the lien date. And I know that, you know, it's LTC policy when the appraisal comes out that the appraiser is allowed to use sales 6 months on either side of the lien
Right,
date.
but
So,
we don't want to be sales chasing either.
I understand.
And by that, I mean by definition, valuing property solely based upon the sales price.
I understand.
And so what I would be looking for would be a separate appraisal of the property that would support the sales price. And from what I have in front of me, the only thing we have is the commission staff appraisal, which we'll hit testimony on in a little bit, of $635,000, which is obviously $200,000 plus lower than what the sales price is, which would indicate the possibility that there was something else included. I agree with you. It'd be nice if we had a closing statement or something that indicated sales price, personal property, that sort of thing.
And Chairman Shahardi,
No, we don't.
in my gathering of data for this case, I attempted to get a copy of the lease that was in place, and my thought there was maybe we could do some sort of capitalization of the lease or DCF or something like that to arrive at a value based on the income that the property was producing. I was not able to procure a copy of the lease. It says it's recorded, but all it was just notice of lease. There were no financial information.
Is it related parties between the lease and the new owner? Is it
I think the lease that was in place was for the purchaser. The purchaser was leasing the property at the time. So that's why I wanted to try to get a copy of the lease to find out.
That would be interesting to know.
But I couldn't. There was no. The only thing I found.
Hold on a minute. Well, you continue. You continue. I'll ask the taxpayers the question.
The only thing I found was just a notice of recorded lease. There was no lease amount or lease term or whatever. It does say in the act of sale that it was lease of a commercial property by and between Sturm Family LLC, who was the seller, and Christopher Rappel DDS, who was the buyer. But that's the only information about the lease that was included, and I couldn't find anything in terms of actual lease rate, term of the lease, so on and so forth.
But that may not necessarily reflect the true value, because I don't know, Dr. Stern may have still been working, maybe only part of the building was leased out, and I don't know.
That's true, but the only reason I was going down that avenue was because, okay, maybe we can get an idea of what kind of income the property was actually producing, and then do an income approach on it. But again, I was unable to find that information.
Well, what my question would be for the taxpayer is, if Dr. Rapold was already leasing the property and establishing a practice, how much additional value did he give the prior owner for his practice? I mean, it sounds like to me they're one and the same.
There was a lease purchase agreement between the two dentists in order to allow Mr. Rappel to get his financing in order to do a transitional period for the patients to be transitioned to the new dentist. Okay, and that's what the purpose of the lease purchase was. It took him a while to get his financing. He was a young dentist, to be able to get his financing together to be able to purchase the practice.
If I may add something, this is the act of sale is not a lease purchase. It's a cash sale of property by the previous owner to the current owner. There's no indication that there's a lease purchase involved at all, other than this act of sale acknowledges that there was a lease in place.
Well, most lease purchases turn into an actual cash sale unless it's a bond for deed sale,
right,
or a lease with owner financing, a sale with owner financing, something of that nature.
But again, unfortunately, that's not delineated in the act of sale. So.
Well, there could be. I mean, I don't know. We don't have the document here, but there could have been an agreement in the lease. Was there an agreement in the lease that Dr. Rappold could purchase the property?
He had the option to purchase the property. That's the whole intent.
And where was that, in the lease itself?
I don't have it in front of me, sir, but I assumed it was in the lease.
Yeah.
Because that's what it ended up
So we don't
being.
know.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, but it's
right.
It would end up being a sale, though. I mean,
right.
The sale's a sale. But that's why it's good to have some appraisal work in the background to be able to confirm one way or the other as to what.
And I don't know if you all want to discuss, you know, the analysis that I did on Mr. Wallace's appraisal, if you have any questions
Yeah,
about
I know
that.
you pointed out, which I was going to ask Mr. Wallace, you pointed out that two of the properties in his sales grid sold for sold for a higher amount than a previous sale
Correct.
was on that. So, you know, that, I don't know what impact that would have. I was going to ask Mr. Wallace about that. Well, let's go ahead and get that in, and then we can discuss whatever else we need to discuss. Mr. Wallace, you want to tell us about your appraisal?
Okay, good morning. I'm George Wallace, Louisiana Tax Commission, and I appraised the subject property. I did a physical inspection. I did an analysis on the land value, which was uncontested at $304,200. I did a cost approach that had a total value of $647,000. And I also did a market approach that came up with $625,000 total, and I correlated the final value at $635,000 with the land value of $304,200 and $330,800 for the improvements.
Now, Mr. Sandos, in his analysis, pointed out that comparable number one, 4526 magazine sold in April of 2016 for $575,000, and comparable number three, May 25th of 16, sold for $980,000. Were you aware of those sales, or
I don't have them with me. I do think that I saw them, but we try to keep our sales within the 13, 14, 15 time frame.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because the effective date of the appraisal is 1/1/15.
Right. Okay. So the assessor's office is asking for a value of $850,000.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Taxpayer is in agreement with the staff appraisal of $635,000. Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Sandos, is this that, I mean, the taxpayer brought up some interesting information on the uniformity on Magazine Street.
Mm-hmm.
Did you look at that in this argument?
I did, and I'm going to be honest with you all. You know, Magazine Street is very non-homogeneous. There's, you know, many different property types and property uses, so it's often very difficult on a price per square foot basis for the improvements to achieve quote-unquote uniformity. So, because, you know, you have mixed use properties, you have 100% commercial properties, you have a shoe store, you have a bar, so it's difficult. I'm not gonna lie about
Is that why the assessor's office normally just uses the sales price?
Correct.
Well, you're not really supposed to do that.
I understand that. But I'm not the assessor.
Well, I understand what your position is, because it is very mixed use and very different in that area.
It's challenging. It is.
But all we have before us really to support any decision I can make would be the appraisal and the staff appraiser at this point. So.
Well, if I could, I would like Mr. Wallace to address some of the things that I arose, particularly.
You talked about those sales, but there could have been improvements to those properties, you know, between the 2012-13.
Well, I really wasn't gonna harp on that. But two of the sales he used are mixed use, residential and commercial. One of the sales he used is 100% commercial, and that's sale number 2, and that sets the highest price per square foot in his appraisal. The other thing I would like to bring up is that there were downward adjustments made on sales 1 and 3 because there were apartments, i.e. mixed use, in those sales, and I was just wondering why, because there's no explanation for the downward adjustment. And why would that be a negative impact when you're looking at a property that's 100% commercial.
Well, the only thing I will say is that these two additional sales that you point out are both in 2016. The valuation date was January 1st, 2015. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
Which would put those sales outside of a 6-month window either way would still put those sales, or a year window either way would put those sales outside of that window.
Yeah, and Chairman Shahardy, the only reason I included that information, I wasn't suggesting that those sales should be used to value this property. I was just making the commission
Sure.
aware.
You really,
that-
so I think you were really trying to say that maybe you should have used some different comps.
Correct.
So if I take, that 163.93 times the square footage without any other adjustments, that's about 405,000. Which would put the property around
Well-
729 if we happen to just use that one.
Well, that's
you know.
that's the other question that I have for Mr. Wallace. In his appraisal, he uses what's called an allocation method. In other words, he's separating the land. He takes the sale price of the three comparables, okay, and then he subtracts the land value to get to a improvement price per square foot. And that's common practice in commercial appraisal, and I understand that. However, it's my understanding that an argument could be made that since all three sales are on Magazine Street and the subject is on Magazine Street and they're all within 20 blocks of each other, there's no location differential. So there's no. I guess I didn't understand the reasoning behind doing the allocation method and getting to an improvement-only price per square foot.
Well, again, I don't know. I mean, lot size is all the same. That'd be my first question. And then my second question would be, 20 blocks seems like a pretty long way on any street, even, especially Magazine. I mean, I mean, you're right. I mean, you go down Magazine, it's this, that.
It's all over the place.
It's all over the place.
Right,
Yeah, it's
right.
all over the place.
Right.
You know?
But I guess what I was trying to get at was since there's really no locational differential between the subject and the three comparable sales, I didn't understand why the allocation method was used in this particular case.
Do you want to address that, or?
Well, it's a common practice, like he said, to do it this way. I didn't make a location adjustment, but if you look at page 11, again, back to my grid, yeah, I take the sales price minus the land value, and I come up to the contributory value of just the building and the improvements. And then from that point, you make your adjustments for time, location, size, and so forth, and you come up with your adjusted unit values just to the improvement. So when you apply that back to the square footage of your subject, and you come back in the bottom of the grid, and I add the value of the subject land back to that price, I just feel like that gives you a more accurate depiction of you're kind of getting a more precise breakdown of the improvements, and I've already established the land value from from earlier in the report. So,
Mr. Wallace, were there any other comps that you could have used that were just commercial oriented and not
I mean, that's
mixed
the
use?
story of my life. I'm looking for comps
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, and I know in that-
Being an addict, I mean, I'm always looking for another comp. But yeah, I mean, I have a stack of comps here that, like Mr. Sando said, it's a pretty large variety of properties out there. But I feel like I have a few other comps I may have been able to use.
And your
that would
cost
support
approach,
the
and your
fact-
cost approach, was what, 650,
647, yeah. And that kind of supports it too.
647, and yeah, that's why, I like to have more than one approach to value in there as a check. I mean, they all balance each other out, and I didn't do an income for
I will.
reasons they already discussed. I didn't have any income and
I didn't read
expense
close enough.
information.
On
And as
the-
far as the amenity goes, it's almost like if you have a residence with a garage apartment in the back, that's an amenity. They can, on these properties, that you can have an owner-operator live upstairs and run his business, or they generate other income and they rent them out.
Those cabins are real expensive too.
I'd just like to point out that one of the things in this sale agreement is that part of what's being sold is all fixtures, equipment, and machinery forming a component part of the building. And just in my experience with dental practices and cost segregation that you do, and down to, you know, if you have to put metal in the room for an x-ray machine, a special plug, these are not things that are being depreciated like buildings. They're not part of the building so much, but they get sold in this package, and I don't know that actually, in my opinion, I think that even though it didn't break it out well, and if they bring this back up, and they could, there needs to be a breakdown for what is fixtures and equipments, because it makes it extraordinarily hard for the assessor. I mean, they have no crystal ball to know how much a chair and things like that. They just can't, and they're going from this information. I would think that this probably does include things that are not integral to the actual building and improvements.
Which is the movables.
How many chairs?
All of that, but I think you have to have it broken out next time, and you have to supply that to the assessor.
Commissioner Wood, I agree with you, but I think in that paragraph, all they're describing is the components of the building. There's no, again, unfortunately, there's no delineation between
but it says fixtures and equipment and machinery. So,
I think that applies to the building itself. I don't think that applies to dental equipment, so on and so forth. That's just my opinion.
Some of it's affixed to the wall, but it's considered movable.
But it says immovable.
It could be fixtures, equipment, and then machinery forming the component. You know, what is it? Eat, shoots, and leaves, without the right comma. So I mean, you just don't know, but it would be very strange for it not to have been included, and there to have been a separate. I mean, Mike, I don't know in your experience, but to have.
But Commissioner Wood, you're right. It's unfortunate that it's not line itemed out in the act.
And it should be, because it would make your job much easier.
Well, especially if in fact it's true that the sale price included everything that the taxpayer representative said it included, but we don't have any documentation of that.
It probably would have been more helpful, and we may not be here this morning, but we're very happy to see everybody. We may not be here this morning if your client had been able to give the assessor's office something.
Exhibit A.
Something that would indicate a value of what the equipment was that was transferred as a part of the $850,000 sales price. Because I've seen that before. I mean, I've had that happen when I was assessor, that you'd have a sale, and you know, we would include the sale in our calculations of valuations of property, and inevitably we would end up with a statement from the new property owner, where he or she would say, you know, I paid X amount, but in that amount were these things, you know.
Right.
We used to see it a lot with single-family homes where they purchased some of the furniture.
Correct.
You know, that sort
drapes
of
and rugs
right.
and chandeliers.
Right.
And
So things that are not permanently attached to
for
it.
dental practices to have a cost segregation done. I can't think of. I did at least 6 in a few years before I retired, and I can't think of a single one that didn't have a cost segregation, that would have had separate documents. It wouldn't have been this, but there was something that could have come and said, okay, this is this property, and that's really what they need to be showing to the assessor.
And quite honestly, Commissioners, it's my opinion that since there was a lease in place on this property, if we would have had some sort of income information, it would be my preference to do an income approach on the property, since it is an income producing property, and that any investor or any prospective purchaser is going to negotiate his or her purchase price based on the income that the property can or is producing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, again, we don't have that information.
Right, right.
Mr.
Mr. Loughlin,
let me
just
interject.
real quickly
Yeah,
though.
sure.
There is no separate agreement between the purchaser and the seller for the separate purchase of any of the equipment or any,
All I know, sir, is that he bought the entire practice from Dr. Creeley.
for land and building
Land and
and the
building and all
practice.
the equipment.
And all the equipment in there, including
Right.
dental chairs and the equipment that would
Let
go
me,
with
if I
that.
could just for a
For
moment.
$850,000.
Yes, for $850,000.
Okay.
Let me just interject one more time that we discover around July 1st when we get the notice that the assessment has been done. Then immediately we have until the 18th of July to file the appeal online.
That's not correct.
Well, that's pretty much what I do. And I fill it out online and instantly when we get to the assessor either accepts it or rejects it and sends it to the board of review.
Run those dates by again?
Usually, they're supposed to open the tax rolls on the 15th of July, and we have till the 18th of August to be able to file.
August, okay.
We have to discover it, the taxpayer has to call me, we have to figure out what's going on, how are we gonna deal with this? We file it online, and he either accepts it or rejects what our request is. Then instantly, we go to the board of review. And I don't mind telling you, it's the biggest waste of time I've ever had in my entire life. Because we go to the board of review, and the assessors tell us at the board of review, we will not look at anything other than the condition of the building. That's the only thing we're allowed to look at. And I mean, I'll tell you, I did 60 last year, and I've done 20-something this year. And every time I talk to the board of review, they say, we will not look at any evidence whatsoever other than the condition of the building. So basically, we're totally waste of our time to go to the board of review, and we rely on the state to come out and do a fair assessment of the property in order to determine the value.
In Orleans Parish, the tax rolls are open to the public from July 15th to August 15th. After August 15th, you have a certain period of time to file an appeal to the Board of Review. In that appeal filing, it's incumbent upon the taxpayer to provide documentation, an appraisal, something that supports their requested value. If you go to the Board of Review and you don't have any of that, and you don't show up to the hearing, the Board of Review is not going to touch it. Period. End of story. Because they got about 1 million of these things they got to do. So you got to, but there's 30 days. It's not instantaneous. The notices go out. You have 30 days to informally appeal your assessment at the assessor's office. What Mr. Loughlin is saying is he doesn't even do that. He just automatically files an appeal to the Board of Review.
No, sir, the assessor sends it to the
Okay,
board of review. I don't do that. I don't file appeals.
We're here this morning.
Right,
Okay.
right,
All
right.
All right.
How many dental chairs are in this building?
Sir, I don't really know. I think there's 4 if I remember correctly.
Prepare to make a motion.
All right, Mr. Wagensbeck?
Yeah, based on the evidence presented, I think that best thing I've seen to support my decision would be the staff appraisal. So the land, my motion would be to have the land at $304,200, improvements at $330,800 for a total value of $635,000.
I'd second that.
Commissioner Archer?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagensback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
Chairman Shahardy?
Yes. Thank you. All right, the next matter on the docket, the appeal of Cindy's Nail and Spa LLC versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22176-018. Again, it's a taxpayer appeal. Mr. Loughlin didn't move, so I'm
Yes.
assuming Mr. Loughlin's going
Yes,
to
sir.
handle the appeal.
This is the property right next door. So a lot of the discussion should probably be about the same amount of evaluation. This is the old Southern Runner on Magazine Street, where we all got our shoes, tennis shoes, if you ran in uptown New Orleans. And my client bought a building that is completely gutted, and we brought the state assessor there and showed him that it was an entire renovation of a metal building with cinder block walls on the side, and they did a very good appraisal of the property, and we agree totally with the state's assessment.
Do you have a separate appraisal for your request?
No, sir, we don't. We just have the states, we brought the state out and the state did the assessment.
I see in the, we have a briefing sheet just with a couple of notes that were made at the Board of Review that, that you claim that there was recent purchase including furniture, fixture, and equipment. And
Yeah, but they bought the location and gutted it completely. They took all the other equipment out and threw it away. And I furnished photographs to the state of the building, gutted.
So we should have those.
Yeah, I believe they are.
I don't have copies of those, so I would object to that being entered into the record.
So y'all bought a building for $1,035,000? Bought the property? What was the sales price when y'all purchased the property?
I don't have that information in front of me.
Commissioner Vercher, in Mr. Wallace's appraisal, he cites the most recent sale of the property, and it says purchase price was $10 and OVC or other valuable consideration.
Well, so my point is, I'm trying to figure out what the sales price was.
We don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
Tax
because if you're going to
revenue?
buy a building and then gut it, and you're saying that the furniture, fixtures, and equipment were a part of the sales price, how much value did you allow?
But we don't know if all it says is $10 and other valuable
Well, no, I'm
consideration,
asking
but we don't know.
I'm asking the taxpayer rep that question, not the assessor's
This
office.
particular client wanted this location very, very badly. She bought everything in the building, complete southern runners, whatever shelving equipment and everything they had. Basically, it was a retail establishment, so I don't think they had.
Not much of it.
They didn't have much. They had
They didn't have a
shelves.
whole lot of inventory?
No,
I mean,
sir.
did she buy
No.
the inventory?
No, sir, they didn't.
They didn't, okay. And you don't know what they bought it for?
No,
the
sir,
price?
no, I was not given that information. I use the same exact technique of looking at other buildings in the neighborhood, the building next door, the building at the corner, and comparing them to what they were assessed at.
Yeah, okay, but you don't know what your client, the value they have on the property, and you're arguing that the assessor's value is too high.
When I was brought in to look at the building, it was a gutted, empty frame building.
Mm-hmm.
My method of trying to calculate what the fair assessment should be is compare the land value to the land value in the neighborhood,
Mhm.
and then compare the building size square footage to every other building that's assessed in the neighborhood.
So you never asked your client what you paid for the building?
And
I just find that very unusual, but I'm not saying that you didn't do that, I just,
actually,
maybe you don't want to know.
the 20 something I've done this year so far, I've not asked one of the clients what they paid for it. I don't know what year they bought it, or whether it was a recent sale, or they owned it for 20 years.
And it says in the notes that you did not attend the board of review?
No, sir, because the Board of Review tells me that they will not look at any comparison information. They're just telling me that if they look at the condition of the building.
But wouldn't
Well,
the
you should
condition of the
be-
building been relevant if it was gutted?
It was being gutted at the time of the fact that I filed the appeal. I think the safety and permits could verify that at the time that it was gutted.
All right, well, let's hear from Mr. Sandos.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thomas Sandoz, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. I assume you have my exhibits that I submitted to you all. Again, it's a similar scenario to the previous case. However, in this particular case, I was able to do a pro forma income approach on the property, which is page 3 of my exhibits. It looks like this. And it's backed up by lease data that was called from CoStar and the MLS, so on and so forth. And what I did was, instead of doing the allocation method like Mr. Wallace did in his appraisal, I just went straight price per square foot and doing that indicates a value of $906,000. The income approach indicates a value of $750,900 pro forma. So therefore, I kind of landed in the middle at $800,000, which is in between those two numbers. And all the lease data is verifiable. It's all included in my exhibits, so I'd be happy to answer any questions. We used a 5% vacancy rate taken from CoStar and MLS. I used a 9.5% cap rate for a Tier 2 property, and a $20 a square foot annualized retail rate, which again was culled from CoStar and MLS analysis.
Now, is this building gutted now, or does it have tenants? You're saying there was an occupancy rate you were able to use. Is
Mr. Wallace's appraisal said the building is under renovation. I don't know what the status of that is.
Gotcha.
But I'm just assuming that the building is leased and, leasable, and if that's the case.
Because you didn't get a chance to see
That's
the
correct.
inside.
Yes, ma'am.
That's understandable.
That's correct.
If the property is gutted, shouldn't that be taken into account on the value, the ultimate value? Because
In an individual basis, absolutely. We have no way of knowing that the building is
okay.
gutted.
Well,
and again, Mr. Laughlin stated that he didn't even mention that to the Board of Review, even though that was the case, allegedly.
yeah.
So
Well,
That would have been relevant.
that would have been helpful.
Your value determination of 800,000, is that correct?
That's what we're asking the
okay.
tax commission to set the value at. Yes, sir.
And again, we'll hear from Mr. Wallace, but he has a valuation of $625,000, which is, what is that? About $175,000 difference.
Yes, sir.
Could that be due to the need for renovation, or the fact that it's under renovation? I'm getting, we've got an income approach by the assessor's office of $800,000. We have got an appraisal from Mr. Wallace of $625,000.
That doesn't use the income approach.
What's that?
Mr. Wallace did not include an income approach in his
You
appraisal.
said that the income approach was not applicable. Is that because it was gutted and it's not?
On page 6 of my report, it may clarify a little bit. The middle photograph, at my time of inspection, the building, it's not gutted. It's about 90 to 95% complete. The interior middle photograph shows that the walls have been put in, the ceilings, it's going to be a nail salon, so I don't know much about them, but all the way down the side of the walls are the sinks and stations where they had to put the plumbing.
Okay.
And the photo's not really that good, but you can see where that is in. And then I guess the reason why they did gut it when they bought it was for the floor drains, because they have pedicures and stuff that they do, so they had to have the drains. My appraisal was based on the premise that it's in the condition that it's in when I inspected it.
And would that have been January 1st, 2015 condition?
No, I inspected it on
2018.
February 18th or 20th. My appraisal date is 2/23 of 18.
So at the
That's
beginning
where
of the
we-
year, basically at the beginning, almost at the beginning of the year.
Right.
If I could add something real quick, that kind of presents a problem. Because Mr. Wallace inspected it in February of this year. The effective date of the appraisal is 1/1/2015. Was the building gutted as of 1/1/2015?
Well, no, those are the values, but it's a condition of the property as of the first of the year. Because the value would be fixed based upon January 1 of 2015. Am I saying that right?
Right.
January 1, 2015. That's the database for value.
Correct.
But on January 1 of 2018, if the building is gutted, then you need to account for the fact that the building's gutted, that there's
I would agree with that,
Nothing.
but as the assessor's office, we have no way of knowing that.
I'm not blaming you. I understand
I know.
that.
Yeah,
You know, I
Substantial
fully understand
change
that.
in its condition.
Yeah, you know, you don't
y'all
necessarily.
aren't clairvoyant.
What folks don't understand is that in the assessor's office, you're dealing on a mass basis.
That's correct.
The only way you're gonna know something on an individual basis is if you happen to have driven down the street going to church on Sunday and happen to have seen a piece of property that's sitting on your desk that you're reviewing, basically pop luck. Or
Wow.
the property owner comes in and tells you something.
That's what
Okay.
my point
Yeah,
was. And
it's-
I go to vigil mass on Saturday, so anyway.
What's that?
I go to vigil mass on Saturday.
Yeah,
so I
okay,
don't go to
well,
church on
then
Sunday.
you passed it on a Saturday evening, okay?
But that's
my
the-
point is,
that's
that's
the-
the only way you know.
That's the purpose of the open roll period.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, so what you're saying, Mr. Wallace, is that when you inspected it, it was substantially complete.
Right,
Not totally complete, but
right. I mean, that was a month and a half, 2 months ago. If the work progressed the way it should have, it may be close to being 100%. I don't know.
yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, just from and I know sales price doesn't, it's supposed to always play a part, but $10 OVC and then renovate it,
Somewhere in between.
that just makes me a little wary.
I agree, Commissioner Virtue, because we don't know what the actual sale price was.
Could be
But you get another bite at the apple because it's, you know, they've got it completely renovated now and new appraisal date's coming up. So
That's correct.
I sure would put a star by it.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Somewhere in between this and this.
Yeah, that's what I had. So bring it back. You've got your calculator out.
That is too.
Seven, 12, 18.
Yeah. 5,400.
Yeah, yeah. All right, based on the evidence presented, I feel that the value is somewhere between the staff appraisal and the income approach pro forma prepared by the assessor. So I'm going to make a motion for the land value to be $189,600 with the improvements at $520,400 to arrive at a valuation of $710,000.
I'd second that.
Commissioner Varsher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagstack?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
Chairman Shahardy?
Yes,
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
thank you all.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good trip back.
Okay.
The remaining two items on today's appeal agenda, items F and G, have both been continued to April 25th. The Tax Commission hereby accepts all pre-filed documents and oral testimony into the record as Taxpayer Exhibit 1 in Globo, Assessor Exhibit 1 in Globo, and Louisiana Tax Commission Staff Appraiser Exhibit 1 in globo for each appeal hearing conducted today, respectfully. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of change orders.
Chelsea Soche with the Louisiana Tax Commission. We have a total of 975 change orders for today's meeting. Staff has reviewed and recommends that the Commission approve 963 and place 12 under pending status per Appraisal Department review.
I would move that we accept 963 change orders and place 12 on pending status.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagensback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
Chairman Shahardy?
Yes. We'll now consider tax sale cancellations.
We have 6 tax sale cancellations for today's meeting. 2 for East Baton Rouge, both erroneously sold. 4 for St. Tammany, all dual assessments. Staff has reviewed and recommends that the Commission approve all 6 tax sale cancellations.
I would move that we accept the staff recommendations to accept all 6 tax sale cancellations.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagensback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
Chairman Shahardy?
Yes. Thank you. We'll now consider a request for a refund of taxes paid in error from Iberia Parish.
Good morning, Commissioners. So I'm actually going to recommend that y'all defer this matter to next week, but just to brief you on what's going on, we received a refund request from a taxpayer in Iberia Parish going back to tax year 2004. I think as y'all are aware, the statute only permits us to refund taxes for 3 years. However, nothing in the law prohibits an assessor from processing a change order or requesting a change order and requesting that the sheriff issue the refund without us being involved. We've reached out to the assessor's office to see what their preference is, whether they want us to move forward with the 3-year refund or whether they're going to process it themselves for the full period. We haven't heard back in the short amount of time we had, so I'm going to recommend we defer this for a week, give us an opportunity, give staff an opportunity to speak with the assessor's office and see what they would prefer. It does appear the refund is in order. The issue deals with whether or not there was a house on the property. According to satellite imagery, Google Earth, there has not been a house on the property since 2004. So the assessor agrees with the request. The only issue now is whether or not we can process it for 3 years or for the full 13-year period.
Need a motion to defer?
The statute does not allow the commission to go back further than 3 years.
That's correct. The statute for a taxes paid in error, it's a 3-year limitation. For homestead exemption, it's a 5-year limitation on the tax commission, not on the assessor's office necessarily.
No such restriction on the assessor.
Correct.
So they can do that without getting us involved and...
They have the discretion,
Okay.
certainly.
So we need a motion to defer this matter for 1 week.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagensback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
Chairman Shahardy?
Yes. There being no other matters to come before the commission at this time, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagensback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
Chairman Shahardy?
Yes.